Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. I'm your host, Pete Pardo, publisher and CEO of SOT. Today, we've got a look at some reissues, the return of the concept album in the 1980s. So some of you may be thinking, concept album, what's he going to be talking about here? Well, go back to 1985, a guy named Tom Galley, brother of Mel Galley, guitarist and vocalist with Trapeze and Whitesnake, had decided he wanted to kind of revisit. Tom Galley was a producer and writer, wanted to revisit the whole concept album storyline, but instead of doing it the old like kind of prog rock way, wanted to bring it into the 80s with more of like the kind of hard rock, modern rock, kind of arena rock type of setting, and kind of mix that with multimedia and visuals and artwork and all that kind of stuff, and do like a whole album presentation, big and bombastic and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how big and bombastic the album presentation got, but the music and the storyline is actually pretty cool. So we're talking about Phenomena, okay? So they have recently reissued the first three installments, okay, these bad boys right here. And these were released by, Explore Rights Management Limited, in conjunction with Tom Galley, again, the producer and co-writer of this whole thing. The phenomenon kind of continued after these three. I think they put out a total of 6 altogether, with varying different lineups. Galley was involved in some and most of them that have been released in recent years, but they tried to continue on. But most folks come back specifically to the first 2, and here's the third one. This is from 1993. So we've got the debut. The first was in 1985. Fast forward 2 years to 87, and then 93 for the third installment. So let's go kind of one by one here. So if you were a hard rock and metal fan back in the mid 80s, surely you would have heard about these. I remember specifically, again, there was no internet back then, 1985. I was 19 years old in college, and I remember hearing all about this in Kerrang and Metal Hammer magazine. That was kind of my introduction to the whole Phenomena thing. And of course, with some of the guys involved, you got Glenn Hughes, who sings on the whole album, Cozy Powell on drums, Ted McKenna on drums, Neil Murray on bass, right? Mel Galley on guitars. So, it's kind of like a really great cast of characters. So I'll just make sure I got everybody here. So where is the lineup in this bad boy? Yeah, drums, Cozy Powell, bass, Neil Murray, John Thomas also on guitars. John Thomas was in, I believe, the second incarnation of Budgie. All right. Richard Bailey on keyboards. I believe Richard was in Magnum briefly. Glenn Hughes on vocals. Also, Richard Bailey was in Alaska, which was the Bernie Marsden band after he left Whitesnake. Who else we got here? Tom Galley lyrics, Glenn Hughes vocals. There's a couple other guys here and there. I mentioned Ted McKenna before. That's the gist of the lineup. And really strong album. Okay, so this is 85, so this is post Deep Purple for Mr. Hughes. Obviously, in the midst of all his 80s craziness with drugs and what have you, but sounding awesome on here. So this is 85, so this is post also Hughes Thrall. Right around the same time where he did the Run for Cover album with Gary Moore, but just before stepping in with Tony Iommi and Black Sabbath, right? So he's awesome on this. If you're a Glenn Hughes fan and you don't have this or haven't heard this, you need to, because this is possibly, for me, along with the 7 Star album by Black Sabbath, I think his best work vocal-wise of the entire decade. And you've got some great heavy dark riffs from Galley and Thomas. Cozy, of course, is awesome as always, but more importantly, it's the kind of the songwriting is just so good, so melodic. This is great melodic rock, heavy in spots, kind of proggy in spots. Kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe a little heavier Magnum, all right? And some of the proggy stuff got little bits of Saga here and there, but it's much more like AOR focused. The great hooks, great vocals, an outstanding album. You know, the concept is all about like a little girl who's in a coma, and her father is able to kind of telepathically connect with her, and all that, those kind of stories that happen based on that. So a very, very cool album, very underrated album. You don't hear people talk about this too much, but this was a, and again, I missed this when I did my concept album episode way back when. I completely forgot about this. A great concept album from the 80s, and if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. So fast forward 2 years. So by the time this came out, Mel was already out of Whitesnake. So Mel is just, you know, Mel Galley contributing his fine guitar work. And in fact, you can hear some bits and pieces of like riffs and things that were on the Slide It In album. Okay, just it's kind of cool. I was re-listening to this the other day, and I was like, oh, that's a little, I hear a little bit of this song, a little bit of that song. So kind of interesting there. So fast forward 2 years to 1987, we got Phenomena 2, Dream Runner. All right, a little bit different cast of characters, but kind of continuing on with the story, but adding a lot more sci-fi elements. Okay, this is a very sci-fi related album as far as like lyrical content goes. So let me get you to the lineup here. Where is this listed? Oh, it's in this booklet somewhere. Anyway, we got on board. Glenn Hughes is on board, sings a couple tunes. He plays a much more kind of low-key role on this album. And he shares the vocals with, you got John Wetton on one tune. John Wetton, of course, from Asia, King Crimson, Uriah Heep, Roxy Music, so on and so forth. And then a very young Ray Gillen on vocals. So this is, ironically, you got these two guys fresh from their stint in Sabbath, right? Obviously, Glenn Hughes looks awful there, all right? And Ray is the guy who replaced him in Sabbath, but he didn't stick around for too long. Did this album, then he was on to Badlands before you knew it. But I tell you, Ray sings the majority of the tunes on this album. Max Bacon, all from GTR, also sings a couple tunes. Ray is the star of the show here. And there's some of the rest of the guys. So who else we got here? We've got Neil Murray back on bass. Mel Galley also on guitars. We got, Jesus, I'm going to butcher his name. Hyuji Yamamoto from Bow Wow, Japanese metal band, on guitars. Scott Gorham from Thin Lizzy, guests on guitar solo on one tune. John Thomas from Budgie again shows up again. Leif Johansson on keyboards. Neil Murray, I just mentioned. Michael Sturgis on drums. And Toshihiro Nimi, also, I believe, from Bow Wow. So, how is this album? Very good also. Maybe not quite to the heights of this album, but not far behind. Like I said, Ray Gillen, spectacular on here. The couple tunes that Hughes sings on, very strong. Max Bacon sounds great on here. A lot of great guitar work on here. You got the guy from Bow Wow who just like shreds. And then you got Mel Galley's really cool riffing and tasty solos and stuff. So a very strong album. And some of the tunes on here, and I didn't get into some of the songs on the other one, but No Retreat, No Surrender is really strong. 66, 55, 4 is a great song. But the big hit on here, surprisingly enough, was Did It All for Love, which is the song that John Wetton sings. And that became like a #1 hit single in South America. And an interesting story that they talk about in here is how when Asia shortly thereafter went to tour South America, the South American press was like, oh, you're going to play You Did It All for Love, right? And they're like, but no, that's not an Asia song. It's like, well, but John sang on it. It was our biggest hit here last year. And imagine, like, you'd say, what are you doing? Like, but a really strong album, some great tunes on there. Yeah, I mean, Jesus, even on the first album, going back to that, Kiss of Fire, Still the Night, Dance with the Devil, Phoenix Rising, Who's Watching You, Hell on Wings, Twilight Zone, great stuff. Really strong. These two are really, really strong. So fast forward a few years, 6 to be exact, we've got Phenomena 3, Inner Vision, basically an entirely new cast of characters here. Not quite as notable. Songs are good, not as heavy as the other two. Much more in the AOR vein and pop vein, but still some really good songs. And much more of a different storyline here. Okay. And who we got? Let's see. So musicians, we got Scott Gorham comes back on guitars. He's probably the biggest name on here. A guy named Keith Merle on vocals. Leif Johansson on keyboards and sampling comes back. Keith is kind of like the musical director this time around, okay? Handling a lot of the arrangements and things like that. Michael Sturgis comes back on drums. Marcus Mueller on guitars and backing vocals. And Brian May makes a guest appearance on a couple tracks, playing a little bit of guitar, because Queen was in the studio next door while they were recording this, so, you know, why not? And a strong album. Again, not quite as successful as those two, but if you like kind of 90s and 2000s style, you know, melodic rock, can't go wrong. It's high quality stuff. Lyrics take a totally different turn. So, you know, the little girl and all that kind of stuff, that's gone. Different storyline here, but still very, very solid. You know, you really can't go wrong with these. And these Digipack reissues are very nice. Got loads of information in the booklets, photographs, all that kind of stuff, lyrics you can follow along. They sound great. These albums always sounded great. Okay, even the original CD issues I had were very, very good. Check them out. You know, Phenomena. 1, 2, and 3. If you love concept album stuff, you like the whole kind of 80s melodic rock scene, you'll love these. You know, they're heavy in spots, they're little proggy in spots, but overall it's just really good, solid melodic hard rock with great musicianship and outstanding vocals all the way across. Even the third one, you know, you don't have obviously Hughes or Bacon or Gillan, who had passed away already by this time, but the singer on this album is very, very good. Very, very good. And like I said, they did I think 3 more after this, and whether they continue to do that, I don't know. But I dig these a lot. So check them out. Full reviews of them on the website at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're on the mighty YouTube. Got all sorts of stuff coming up. I hope to squeeze in a questions and answers this weekend. I know a lot of you have been asking. It's been a couple weeks. Just haven't had the time, people. It's been crazy, 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 crazy busy. And it will be for the next week. In fact, next week I'm on a business trip yet again, and probably won't see much from me from like Tuesday to Friday, maybe till the weekend. So, but I hope to squeeze in a few things this weekend. So, also, I will be guesting on Jeff Young's Music Without Boundaries this coming Monday night yet again. JeffYoungJams.com. Be sure you do not miss it. Jeff and I are going to be talking about the most influential and impactful bands that we had while we were growing up, okay? As well as maybe a band or artist that we really didn't appreciate or get into much when we were younger, but have really grown to appreciate and love as we've gotten older. So we're going to do that. In addition to all this, Jeff is going to be appearing on this show very, very soon. Jeff's got all sorts of exciting things that he's doing musically to talk about. We want to make sure we get all that firsthand. So look forward to Jeff Young, ex-guitar shredder from Megadeth and solo artist on his own, doing all sorts of great things on the Sea of Tranquility YouTube channel coming up real soon. So till then, take care. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.